When hearing the name Danny DeVito, the first image that comes to mind for millions of viewers is his infectious grin, his explosive energy, and a magnetic comedic presence that has dominated the Hollywood screen for more than 5 decades. Yet behind those legendary performances, behind the seemingly endless vitality, lies a profoundly sorrowful reality, one marked by physical pain, emotional wounds, and silent struggles. At the age of 81, the man who has made the world laugh countless times now carries the heavy burden of a life filled with quiet suffering, loneliness in his later years, and psychological scars that have never fully healed. A childhood surrounded by hardship. The story of Danny DeVito's life did not begin under the bright lights of Los Angeles, but in the working-class neighborhoods of Asbury Park, New Jersey. From the very moment he was born, life placed upon his shoulders a burden that was deeply unfair. His parents quickly noticed that their son was physically different. While other children his age seemed to grow rapidly, Danny remained unusually small and fragile. After numerous medical examinations, doctors eventually diagnosed him with multiple epiphyseal dysplasia, also known as Fairbanks disease, a rare inherited bone disorder that prevents the ends of bones from developing normally. The condition leads to short stature and abnormalities in the joints and skeletal structure. For a child, this was not merely a matter of looking different. It was the beginning of a life journey marked by physical pain and deep emotional isolation. The schoolyard, a place that should have been filled with laughter and carefree moments, instead became a terrifying battlefield for Danny. He became an easy target for bullies. They mocked his height, his appearance, and his physical frailty with cruel nicknames. Some shoved him into lockers, threatened him physically, and constantly reminded him that he did not belong in the world of the normal kids. Comedy, a shield for the soul. It was during those painful years that Danny discovered a powerful survival instinct: humor. He realized that if he could make the very people who were tormenting him laugh, they might momentarily forget about hurting him. Slowly, he began to weaponize his wit, making jokes about himself before anyone else could do it first. Laughter became his defense mechanism, but the price of that shield was steep. Behind the jokes and exaggerated antics, deep psychological wounds were forming. Danny learned to play the role of the clown simply to survive. Beneath the sarcasm and slapstick humor, he concealed a pain that cut to the bone. The world might accept him as a funny man, but it rarely saw him as a serious individual or as someone who could ever be the hero of the story. After graduating from high school, with his self-confidence deeply fractured, Danny did not dare to dream of the spotlight. Instead, he accepted a quiet job at his sister's beauty salon, spending his days sweeping hair from the floor and learning the craft of cosmetology. It became a safe shell where he could hide from the judging eyes of the outside world. Yet the flame of art inside him refused to die. Driven by a quiet but persistent desire, Danny eventually gathered the small reserve of courage he had left and enrolled at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York. At first, he told himself, and his family, that he was only going there to study makeup and theatrical cosmetics. But the stage had a magnetic pull, and slowly, irresistibly, it began to draw him out of the shadows. The battle against prejudice in Hollywood. Stepping onto the path of professional acting proved to be one of the most painful chapters of his adulthood. Hollywood at the time was obsessed with leading men who were tall, handsome, and effortlessly elegant. Casting directors simply did not know what to do with a bald man who stood under 1.5 meters tall and visibly carried the effects of a genetic bone disorder. Again and again, Danny encountered a merciless wall of rejection. Some told him bluntly that he was too strange, too short, too ethnic, and that someone like him could never sell tickets to a mainstream audience. For several years, Danny lived in extreme poverty in a freezing apartment in New York that had no heating. He shared the cramped space with a fellow struggling actor and friend, Michael Douglas. The two young dreamers often had to split cheap hamburgers just to get through the day, lying awake at night wondering whether their dream of Hollywood was nothing more than a foolish illusion. The determination it took for Danny to wake up every morning, look into the mirror, and face an industry that openly dismissed his appearance was extraordinary. A psychological battle that continues to haunt him even today. A turning point and a triumph filled with tears. The door to recognition finally opened when Michael Douglas produced the now legendary film One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and insisted on giving his close friend the role of Martini. Although the performance brought Danny long-awaited recognition, the experience of visiting real psychiatric institutions to observe patients for the role stirred painful memories within him. Memories of exclusion, isolation, and the lingering feeling that he never truly belonged anywhere. Yet the true peak of his career came with his portrayal of Louis De Palma in the television series Taxi. His audition for the role was almost an act of desperate rebellion. Frustrated by what he considered a terrible script, Danny reportedly threw it onto the table and lashed out angrily at the material. Ironically, that very intensity was exactly what the producers were searching for. The character of Louis De Palma, a ruthless, manipulative, sharp-tongued taxi dispatcher, became iconic and earned Danny DeVito an Emmy Award. But the success came with a painful side effect. The public began to blur the line between actor and character. Many people assumed that Danny DeVito himself must be just as bitter, abrasive, and unpleasant as the man he portrayed on screen. For someone whose real personality was deeply kind, sensitive, and compassionate, this misunderstanding cut deeply. For decades afterward, he quietly tried to prove through his actions that he was nothing like the cynical villains that Hollywood's narrow view of his appearance had so often forced him to play. The only great love and the void that could not be filled. The brightest light in Danny's life was the actress Rhea Perlman. The two met in 1971 and instantly felt a powerful connection of souls. Rhea was the first person who looked beyond his physical limitations, beyond his illness, and saw the warm, gifted artist beneath. Together, they built a loving family with 3 children and became one of Hollywood's most enduring couples. Rhea was Danny's anchor, the one person who truly understood the man behind the humorous mask. That is why their decision to separate after more than 30 years together came as a shock and became a quiet tragedy for Danny. Although they have remained close friends and never officially divorced, the end of their romantic relationship left an enormous void. Living alone in a luxurious mansion in Beverly Hills, a home that was once filled with the laughter of his wife and children, became a bitter reality. The silence of the house could sometimes feel suffocating, and the pain of growing old without a life partner by his side has been a heavy psychological burden he has rarely spoken about in public. Sacrifice for art and the hidden kindness within. Even as his career soared with roles such as the Penguin in Batman Returns, Danny endured significant physical suffering for his craft. The thick layers of prosthetic makeup required hours to apply each day, and the heavy costume tightly bound his body, aggravating his bone condition and causing intense pain between takes. But the emotional toll ran even deeper. The character Oswald Cobblepot, a man abandoned by his own parents because of his deformities, echoed Danny's deepest childhood wounds. Portraying the Penguin forced him to confront painful feelings of rejection and isolation that had never fully healed. Yet Danny's true kindness shines brightest in the moments the public rarely sees. During the production of the film Matilda, the young star Mara Wilson was going through an unimaginably difficult time. Her mother was dying of cancer. Danny and Rhea quietly stepped in and cared for the young actress as if she were their own child. In one particularly moving gesture, Danny secretly brought an early cut of the film to the hospital so Mara's mother could watch her daughter shine on screen before she passed away. The man Hollywood often cast as grotesque villains or selfish little tyrants turned out, in reality, to possess one of the most compassionate and generous hearts imaginable. The later years, a battle that continues. At the age of 81, Danny DeVito still refuses to slow down. He continues to work tirelessly on the long-running television series It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Every exaggerated fall, every chaotic physical gag that makes audiences laugh often comes with a painful cost to his aging joints. A recent near-drowning accident on set served as a harsh reminder of just how fragile his body has become. So why doesn't he stop? Because for Danny, acting is no longer merely a profession, it is a lifeline. Working keeps his mind occupied, pushing back against the shadows of sadness and the quiet weight of loneliness. Performance has become a way of surviving. He is an artist who built an entire empire of laughter upon the foundation of deep personal pain. And now, when we sit in front of our screens laughing at his outrageous antics, it is worth remembering the silent sacrifices behind that joy. Danny DeVito has given the world his energy, his humor, and his extraordinary talent, while quietly carrying the sighs, the pain, and the solitude within himself. At 81, his reality stands as a bittersweet, yet beautiful testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a great clown with a heart that has often bled, yet one that never stopped loving life.